We are starting off a new series called Industry Icons, and this one is the inaugural show. You're not going to want to miss who I was able to talk to come on this show.
Don't hang up that phone. We've found what you're looking for. Welcome to the Let's Talk Cabling Podcast with Chuck Bowser, RCDD. Well, seeing how we're pulling Category 6A, the most powerful twisted pair in the world, you got to ask yourself this one question. Did I pull 295 or 300 feet? Well, do you feel lucky? Do you, punk? In this podcast, you'll learn the differences between a 66 and 110 punch tool, the proper way to install a support cable, along with testing and certifying the cable. What exactly does RCDD stand for? Registered Communications Distribution Designer. Just the expert you need to ensure your cable plant performs exactly as designed. The elite professional, knowledgeable, and experienced in leading-edge ICT design principles. So join us as we talk about the ever-changing world of telecommunications. From ISP to OSP, from copper to fiber, design to installation. Now, send the new guy to the truck for a bucket of dial tone and the cable stretchers, while you listen to an informative program on telecommunications.
Welcome to the show where we tackle the tough questions submitted by installers, project managers, estimators, ICT personnel, customers, and even anybody. We are connecting at the human level so that we can connect the world. If you're watching this show on YouTube, would you mind hitting the bell button and the subscribe button to be notified when new content is being created? If you're listening to this audio on one of the podcast platforms, podcast forms, would you mind giving us a 5-star rating? And if it's not 5-star, let me know what I could do to make this better so we can get this show out to more people, help educate, encourage, and enrich the lives of others. Because those two little tips helps gives us the more exposure to more people in the industry. We also have a live stream every Thursday night on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. And at 6 o'clock, it's called Ask Chuck Bowser RCDD. So you get to ask me your favorite questions about ICT, career path, estimating, project management, doesn't matter. And if you missed the show, they're recorded. You can catch them on YouTube and also through our webpage. So if you are a member of this audience, you know that we started a series a while back called Industry Trendsetters, where we highlight new and upcoming professionals in this industry. But you can't get a good appreciation for where this industry is going until you know where we have been. So I'm starting another series called Industry Icons. And the first guest I got today, though we have never really physically met face-to-face and whatever, we have served on some of the same committees, and I've seen his name in a lot of BICSI books. Our guest today is Phil Klingensmith. Phil, welcome to the show. How you doing?
Doing well. How are you, sir?
Good. It's finally good to talk to you. And like I said, I've seen your name in lots and lots of books, and we've even served on a couple committees together. But that back then, that was before I found my. I wasn't a chatty Cathy. I was the nervous guy who sat in the back of the room and I didn't say hi to anybody. And I didn't, go up and introduce myself. I've gotten past that stage, obviously. So it's a pleasure to have you on the show. First thing I like to always ask every guest who's been on for the first time is tell us a little bit about you and how you got in this industry.
Well, like a lot of people, it was probably an accident. I was in the Navy. I was an electronics technician in the Navy, and that was back in the era of wooden ships and iron men, and that's what my son always tells me. But I came out of the service and I went to work for a company called RCA. And RCA was building things at that point in time for, believe it or not, a company called Western Electric. And I got to work on a store and forward machine way back when, before it was socially acceptable. And then found out that a little company called AT&T was hiring. And I said, this sounds pretty good. And so that's when it all started. And it was a ride that took about about 27 years with them. And it's just, once you're in, you're not able to get out. It's just like quicksand. It's gonna come right in, and it's gonna keep you right there. So you need to be aware of that. If you're a young person coming into the industry, you're probably going to be always with a job. You can always find a job, and you're probably going to be stuck with it. So enjoy it. That's what I've done.
It's funny you brought up a couple of points that I hear quite often, and it mirrors mine as well. I got into communications because my ex-wife now, her father worked for AT&T, and a friend of ours was working for a computer cable company. And I wanted to go work for AT&T, but I wanted to have some experience first. So I went to work for a computer cabling company, and I just kind of fell into it. It wasn't like I was 10 years old and I was like, when I grow up, I want to pull cable. It didn't happen that way. But you're right. And the point that I definitely want to make sure that gets reiterated is, if you want as close to a recession-proof industry that you can find, because there's no such thing as a recession-proof industry, but as close as you can find, is going to be our industry. When the economy's blowing and going, companies are moving into new buildings and bigger buildings, and they're growing and building hyperscale data centers and all kinds of fun stuff. When we're in recessions, companies are downsizing. They're moving into smaller office spaces. And all that stuff needs to be cabled and wired, right? I've never been laid off in my 40 years in this industry. And one thing I got to mention, it's rare when I come across somebody who has more years of experience than me. And I'm in awe. I truly am. So I got to ask you this question. Yeah. What is the first cable you installed?
Well, I hope your folks can see this. This is
Can you hold up a little higher?
A little insulator. These are the things that kids used to shoot with the BB guns and everything, and that were carried the open wire lines. And I was actually first hired to help dismantle an open wire line. It was from Cleveland to Charleston, West Virginia, and the actual first cable that I worked on after that was a Pittsburgh St. Louis cable. And it was 1,200 pair, and it was a pulp paper insulator. It was lead sheath. It was air core, and it was aerial. So you can imagine we had it. It was up on class 5 poles, so it needed to have something. It was about 10 pounds a foot, was what it weighed, I think. So that was the very first one.
So I've got lots of cabling experience, but my outside plant cabling experience is limited to pretty much just buried or direct buried cable between two buildings, customer owned kind of stuff. I never did any pole stuff. And let me know if this is true or not, because you're the outside plant expert here, not me. I was told that the first form of a twisted pair was the old phone lines. They would swap them at the post and between each of the posts, and that's how you would get your twists.
You're absolutely right. And it was basically a random twist, of course, but it was in there for the same reason it's in there now, to eliminate the crosstalk and make sure you have an isolation, and they did exactly the same thing. So yeah, you're right. And we had to maintain that twist when we opened these things up. So I don't know. I probably shouldn't be around, because I put so many lead sheaths on and many lead splices that I'm sure that does benefit. But most people that have been in the industry as long as I have, those that are still living, most of those people will probably remember some of these things.
Right. Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So my first cable that I got to install was actually for a system called NBI. Now NBI back then was a company that was putting in work terminals and stuff like that. And everybody always used to ask, what does NBI stand for? Nobody knew. So they used to joke and say, nothing but initials. So we were putting in like a 18 gauge 2-pair twisted or they were putting in the coax, the 10 base T, the old coax for the 10 base stuff. We had to put the BNC connectors, you had to put the
Right.
50 ohm terminator on the end of them and stuff. And cause I remember when I first got in this industry that there was basically two types of cable contractors, right? Either computer cabling contractors or telephony cabling contractors. And most of the time, Ma Bell was doing the telephony. And then when we first merged, right after divestiture, I thought that was the worst thing in the world for our industry. But now when I look back at it, just everything is just merging together and together and together. I mean, it really is. So let me ask you this: I know you work history, but a lot of my audience members may not. What have you done to make this industry better?
Well,
now remember, we only have about 20, 25 minutes.
No. That's good. Some of the things that, well, working for AT&T, I worked for AT&T Long Lines for a number of years, and so we were America's traveling tramps. We did nothing but put in outside plant, and then came inside and started working on the inside issues with cabling. And actually, one of the best things that I did was probably to establish some different trainings, and I've kept that with me for the entire time. I kept it with me as even up to and including a master instructor for BICSI, and I'll have my own company, or had my own company for a number of years, and did training. But I think that one of the biggest and best things I did was to join a little company called BICSI, that was an association who I knew little or nothing about at that time, but it was basically formulated by AT&T and Bell Canada and the University of Kentucky, and I've had the opportunity to establish a number of different how-tos, best industry practices, do a lot of things with manuals, and do a lot of things with training classes. And I've been real lucky because BICSI has kept me around for all this time. And they still seem to, I've still got my certified trainer, and I'm still around. And I think that was one of the best things that I could do for the industry, because it helped give other people the information that I learned over the period of time that I'd been in the industry. And if you don't impart it, it's going to be lost. Okay. And there's, as we always used to tell people, there's only one thing worse than training somebody and having them leave the company, and that's not training them and having them stay. Yep. And that makes a big thing. But that was good, and I've enjoyed it, and I hope to continue enjoying it for a little while longer.
When was the last time you taught a BICSI class?
Oh, let's see. The installation classes, it's been about 4 years since I taught the installation classes. The design classes, in the last year, I've taught design classes. Gotcha.
Yeah, I used to be a certified trainer as well when I used to work for a small little company out of Northern Virginia called Hinkles McCoy. And as the certified trainer, when you leave that company, that certificate stays with the company. It doesn't stay with you. I did get asked, maybe you can help me. I got asked this question the other day on TikTok. Yeah. And so somebody posted a question, because since you taught more recently than I have. And they asked me, they said in their comment that they were getting ready to take the BICSI hands-on exam. Uh-huh. Was there any hints or tips that I had for them to help them be a little more successful? Now, again, I haven't taught the class in like 20 years. And when I took my class, and since you have more relevant experience than I did, when I taught my classes, they would give you the hands-on portion. They would give you the sheets that had the lines on it. It said step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5. And if you followed the plans and you did it the way the book said to do it, and you were taught how to do it, pay attention. Make sure you label the jack when you get done, right?
Absolutely. Make sure you wear your safety glasses before you start anything.
That's a good one.
Okay, that's always a good one. And the good hint, either this person has taken a class or they're aware of a class. They've probably gotten the manual that they're studying on so that they can take the written test. And if that's the case, all of those different tasks are laid out very well for them to understand. And of course, they need to be aware of them. And they need to, if somebody puts a 110 block or a 210 block up in front of them, they need to know what they are. And they should know how to terminate them. They should know things like be able to identify the pairs in a 25 pair cable, be able to do these things that are normal tasks. But you're absolutely right. If you've gone through the class, all you have to do is follow the instructions. And as long as you're aware of what these tasks are going to be, you should be able to prepare yourself for them pretty easily.
Yeah, when I used to be the certified trainer, we would do a class a quarter. We'd bring in people from different offices and stuff, and we'd teach them. And then we'd always put out there, hey, look, we're doing a BICSI exam on Saturday, whatever the date was. So those who wanted to take the test, who didn't sit in the class, had the opportunity to do so. Because you don't have to sit in the class to take the test. And I always found that while they did good on the written stuff, when it came to the hands-on stuff, because they weren't in the class, they weren't aware of the best practices that were taught in the class. And I failed more people who tried to go through the hands-on portion that way than the people who actually sat in the class.
Yeah, that's typical. That's typical. A lot of people go forward. You think, you've been in the business for 15 years, and some people, I know everything about everything. Well, you've been in the business for 15 years, and we used to say, and you were a coin collector. What did you learn about terminating fiber optics?
Yep.
And so you need to be aware of, the first thing is awareness of what's the test going to be about. And there's nothing better than to take a BICSI class to find out what you need to be studying for. And believe me, they'll let you know. They'll impart all that information.
Yeah, absolutely. And you being an instructor as well, you probably know there's different types of personalities you'll have in a class, right? And one of those is the one you just named right off the. I've been doing this for 15 years. I know everything. This guy is not going to teach me nothing. Right. That's usually the person who fails because they're not open for instruction.
They're not.
And my wife will tell you, this is one of her favorite sayings. Just because your grandfather did it that way doesn't mean it's the way you still do it.
Yeah, and there's and we're in an industry where you've got kind of a two-edged sword here. Okay, you look at it, and we're in an industry where yes, you need to know all the emerging technology, but you also need to know where did it come from, what it used to be. This is the only industry in the world that is totally backwards compatible. From Hello Central up to the fanciest type of instrument you're using today to make a voice call, in case you do make a voice call instead of text. We've reverted back to the old days of telegraph now. We've got the one-way conversation, only we don't have to learn code anymore. That's
Yeah, I've never really thought about our industry that way, but you're absolutely correct. Everything is backwards compatible, and the standards are written that way, and the installation practices show that in the way that they're written as well. So you do have to have a good foundation of where we've been to know where we're going. I remember once as a project manager, I had a guy working for me, and I took over a new project for another project manager. His wife, I think he had to leave because he took some leave because his wife was delivering a baby or something like that. So I took over the project, and I had this guy on the job, and he really impressed me. He seemed to know everything and seemed to be really good. And so I sit down having lunch with him one day, and I said, "Well, how long have you been in the industry?" And he goes, 3 months. I was like, no, not the company. How long have you been in the industry? He goes, 3 months. I was like, wow, you know a lot. He goes, yeah, I'm a technician. I'm like, whoa, you're an installer. There's a difference between an installer and a technician. And he goes, no, there's not. So I took him down to the data center, right? And I found an old Twin X cable. And I picked up and said, what's this? He goes, I don't know. Went around, found some 10 base 2 cable. What's this? I don't know. I said, what do you know how to do then? I can pull Cat 5e cable. I can drop it down the walls. I can terminate and I can test it. You're an installer. Don't get me wrong. You're an impressive installer for knowing a lot in the 3 months that you've been here. You're on the right path. You're on the right direction. You're not a technician yet. And that's where it comes. And you people say, well, that's old technology. There's still companies out there using that old technology. Let me ask you this, Phil. When's the last time you've been in a closet and saw some 182 key phone equipment still sitting on the wall, still powered up because nobody knows what it is and they're afraid to touch it?
They're afraid to touch it and move it out of there. A lot of things you find like that, and you wonder what in the world is this still doing here, drawing electricity.
I got another perfect example for you, right? 66 blocks.
Yes.
They've been around ever since I've been in this industry, and even longer. And I got in this conversation with a peer of mine the other day, and they're like, no, we need to not even talk about 66 blocks anymore. That's old stuff. That's legacy.
Oh. I'm
like, they're still installing it. And if, you need to teach the people, so when they come across this block, when they're doing a demarcation extension or sometimes some of the fire alarm systems use it, right? Would you still say
Absolutely.
a 66 block is common in our industry?
Would I still say it is common?
Yeah.
There's still so many of them around. You've got to say it's common. It's common because it's a legacy equipment, as you say, that's been here for a long time. Is 110 still common? 110 is still common. Do you still have some points out there where you've got basically even some wire wrap in play? Absolutely. You're going to run into these things. You need to be exposed to them, at least from a standpoint so you can identify them.
Right.
And then next, from a standpoint that you don't blow something up or you can kill somebody's services real easy. And this is one of the biggest errors we have today in our industry is people go out there and they don't understand what they're really looking at, and they take service down. Not a good thing. Not a good thing.
Identify. Yeah, if you know what it is, then you can research and find out the best practices for it, right? You can get on YouTube and type in 66 blocks and find the correct way to install. But if you don't know what it is, you don't know where to even start.
Oh, you're dead in the water. That's absolutely right. Absolutely right.
And it's funny you mentioned wire wrap. I did a class and they got a lot of wire wrap out there.
Yeah, a lot of wire wrap. Do. They do. They got a ton of it. They got a ton of it. And then they got a lot of old screw terminals and everything that are still out in the field, and a lot of the protection areas. And you sure don't want to take the protection off a cable coming into buildings and things like that. So yes, need to be aware of all these things.
And you hit the nail on the head too when you said, you got to be aware of it so that you don't blow something up. Well, imagine if somebody who's doing some work out there didn't know what that wire wrap stuff was, disconnected something, and there was a launch.
Yeah.
What are the what's the things that go wrong there? Lost command control. Who knows? Telemetry. Who knows what?
So many repercussions that you can get them. Yep.
Very, very cool. So I know that you've been in this industry for a while and you've seen a lot of stuff. Let me ask you this: where do you see our industry going in the future?
That's it's moving so fast. You don't know where it might be tomorrow. I think the main thing is the intelligence of the instruments themselves. And the artificial intelligence that's out there, and of course the wonders of the internet and everything. AT&T actually introduced that concept back in the 70s, and they called it an ACS was a circuit offering they had, and it was part of the precursor to the internet, because that the internet today works on the same principles as the switch telephone network did. Look ahead routing and things of that nature. So what goes around comes around, but I see more and more the intelligence is moving more towards the user in a lot of cases with the things that they're using. But there are still a lot of needs out there. Power was the big thing. That was a big driving force. There's a building, the first building that I worked in with AT&T in 1964. Jesus, that's a long time ago. Was actually out in Newark, Ohio, and it was a switching office. and they had 2-wire and 4-wire repeaters in there. And that was on the long distance service. And that building is still there, but it's got vines and stuff growing up all around it and everything. But that building was needed to be there because of the power that it took to operate that. Now you can get that same processing power in a chip, and you can operate it. You can operate it on a 1.5 volt battery. So you look at the difference, and what you're going to see is everything is coming down to smaller and smaller and smaller. I see that as one of the things in the industry, but we're still going to have to focus on what's the legacy equipment, how can we use it with this, what do we want to have that's hardwired. You're going to have a lot of cases that are still it's never going to be all wireless, or else your ears are going to glow whenever you walk into a room. At some point in time, you're going to still have to come back to a wired circuit or a cable circuit somewhere, and it's going to have to process some of that data that's in there. So I see the industry, I see us being very much specialists in the infrastructure, as BICSI is. We've got to pull, tag, terminate, and test. We've got to do that because nothing is going to operate unless we make that happen. We've got to have a media that carries it out there somewhere. So we need to have people like us that are, well, at least they once were good at that when they could climb a pole and things like that.
No, you're right, and our industry covers a lot of territory. That's why when I find when I explain my job to most people, if I say I'm in the information communication technology industry, or I'm a cable guy, they automatically think either I'm the guy who's putting the drop on the outside of their house for their cable TV, right? Mm-hmm. Which that is a part of our industry.
Yeah.
But our industry has many facets to it. I like the parable I like to use is we're like a bicycle, right? There's the hub, there's the spokes, there's the wheel, there's the frame, there's the brakes, and every one of them has a specific job. And there are no experts in this industry. That's why I have people like you on my expert council, because now I have people, when they give me outside plant questions, I know who to go to for them questions.
Okay. I'll take that as a compliment. Otherwise, I'll take it as you saying me be old.
No. It was absolutely meant as a compliment. Absolutely meant as a compliment.
I'm just fine with you. I'm just fine.
You have probably forgotten more about outside plant than I even know about outside plant.
Like boy, there's other people that are still around, believe it or not, that I learned a lot of things off of, because I came in from the outside world. I came in where everything we had was heavy, high pair count cable, and was up on big poles, or up on big towers when we were doing microwave radio and all this. And I came into and I had to learn about the local types of installations, and what we did in the subdivisions, and what we did in the cross connect boxes, and what we did, because that's, we're replacing that, I know, with fiber in a lot of cases now, but you need to know what it does if you're going to, just like you said, like my dad always used to tell me, it's very hard to get somewhere if you don't know where you're going.
Yep.
But it's also very hard to get somewhere if you don't know where you are.
Right. Yeah. My dad always used to say, don't drive your car by looking in the rearview mirror.
There you go. Yeah.
You have to understand where you've been.
Something like that. He was a state highway cop, so that was
Yeah, my dad was a tow truck driver, so he knew a lot of cops. So maybe that's why the commonality.
Maybe so. Yeah. No, but that's I think you're going to see some real need to stay in an organization, or in organizations like BICSI. I think BICSI is I keep going back to that, and somebody says, why do you go back to BICSI? Well, I've been a member for over 30 years. And I go back to BICSI because I know I can get the answer there. I know I can get the answer that I need. I know if I don't have the answer, someone else will have it. It's a great association. It's a great thing to belong to, a great thing to be in and work with. And 34 years of undetected crime. I'm glad I knew about it.
I agree 100%. I think BICSI is an outstanding organization, especially to help for career path and stuff, which kind of leads me to my next question, right?
Yeah.
So if you were just getting into this industry today, right,
Mm-hmm.
what advice would you give yourself to be successful?
One of the things that I would say is get as much information and training as you possibly can as you're moving through the chairs or through whatever you want to do. You're going to get with a company that's got a career path, and then understand that it's never a waste to learn something new, and it's never a waste to find out how something old works. Okay, and that's big information that I would give people. Emerging technology, of course, you got to stay up on that. But information is the key to what you're going to be able to do successfully in this industry. And like you, in all these years, I've never had a moment where I've drawn unemployment. There's always been a job out there somewhere.
Yeah, great advice. I tell people all the time, the best you can be in this industry is a constant learner. Because if you're a constant learner, as new emerging technologies come out, it'll help you with it. We talked about, you got to know where you came from. We talked about that earlier. Mm-hmm. Not every company out there adopts, oh, wait, there's Cat 6A. Well, let's go scrap that Cat 5e cable we just put in three years ago. Not every company does that. Some of them wait to spend their money. And so you get a mixture of old technology, new technology, and you have to understand it. And the only way you can really deal with that is to be a constant learner. So,
right.
Yep. Any parting shots of wisdom before we sign off?
Not really. I've enjoyed it. It's fun to sit here and talk to you about it, and I appreciate you what you're doing and on your shows, and I like to look at you're bringing out the pictures of some of the equipment I actually recognize. You had a 3M splice there the other day. That was pretty cool. I hadn't seen one in a long time.
And that's exactly the reason I did that, is because you were just talking. I was just talking about it. Everybody's familiar with the fusion splicers and ribbon cable and stuff.
Yep.
But what if you're going to do something old like that?
But then you're going to get just exactly what I get exposed to, and in a way it's frustrating at times because I don't know all the answers. But when I go I'm looking at a single fiber splice, a mechanical splice, the 3M hot, and it's not it's not a connector, it's a splice. I'm looking at that, and I'm thinking to myself, And yesterday I was figuring out how to dress and furcate and dress 3,456 fiber cable. A scary thought, that?
Yep. Oh, absolutely.
So you're going from the very bottom up to the very top of the technology. Well, of course they've got even bigger ones now, but getting to the top of the technology. So constant learner, do it. Keep doing what you're doing. I enjoy it, and I hope I didn't bore anybody too much.
I doubt you did, because you know what? You didn't bore me, and I'm the one running the show here. So you will be on again. Trust me. You will be on again, especially if I get outside plant questions.
Okay, we'll do it.
Phil, thanks for joining us today.
You're more than welcome. I really appreciate it. Thanks for the opportunity.
My pleasure. All right, everybody. Until next time, be safe.
That's it for this episode of today's podcast. We hope you were able to learn something. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on future content. Also, leave a rating so we can help even more people learn about telecommunications. Until next time, be safe.